Hi, I'm Bonnie Annis,
And I'm Stephanie Prestidge.
and we're here from Lemoore. And today we are going to be talking the third in our series of inflammatory skin condition that's very common, acne. We have a different background here today, and we are doing a little rewilding ourselves. We've talked about that before in some of our YouTube videos. Today, we're going to wrap up our conversation around acne by talking about a couple of things. First off, we are going to talk about something that Esse calls a mismatch. What's a mismatch and how does it impact your skin?
When we talk about mismatch, we can talk about modern society's lifestyles. And if you look now at hunter gatherer communities around the world, people that still live completely off the land, dermatologists have been doing ongoing studies that they in those communities they have not found any inflammatory skin conditions. They have yet to find acne, not even like one blackhead on a person's skin.
Hmm.
They have yet to find rosacea, dermatitis. So mismatches are discussions of how much time do we spend inside versus outside. How often are we cleansing our skin? Is it possibly too much?
Mm-hmm.
Um, all the cleaners we use because we are so worried about germs and bacteria, but not realizing some are good and some are not so good.
Right, and we have to find that balance in terms of what we have to do to keep things clean and disinfected, especially in our industry of aesthetics and spa, but also not killing everything. And for me and for my family, years ago, when antibacterial soap was very popular, I was like, I don't think so. I don't think so. That was long before I taught infection control, long before I was working in this industry. It just felt like antibacterial was not the way to go. So, what's interesting about, I have so many more questions. When you talk about hunter gatherer communities, I think it's a much longer discussion,
Mm-hmm.
but it also seems very foreign for people living in Canada, where we are, where you have to go very far to be somewhere off the grid or where people are living off the land. And I don't know in our country, even people who live in the far north, even in Inuit communities, if there really is anyone living off the land anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of the great tragedies in our country that we've taken away culture and we've taken away the history of so many indigenous communities. That's a conversation for another day. But as we approach Canada Day, it is something that I think frequently about and I think long and hard about. Um, so, in terms of mismatch, another thing I've heard is about how babies are born can
Yes.
also be a factor
Mm-hmm.
in a mismatch. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. With the Human Microbiome Project, they discovered gut microbiome as a first study. That's why we now, I know you and I've talked about this, like there's dog food probiotics now, and there's all these things, but it's not the only place that we have a microbiome. It's on our skin and it's also in the birth canal.
Right.
So when a child is born into this world, their first antibodies created for them, their first protection of immunity is through the birth canal, through a microbiome in the vaginal walls. So when a child, unfortunately, and for some reasons they need to be,
Of course.
but sometimes not so much, delivered through cesarean C-sections, they're not getting that.
They're not getting the connection with the microbiome. And my knowledge, I used to work in the midwifery field, that a baby is born and its gut is populated with good bacteria through being born through the vaginal canal.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just starting to learn all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so much more we need to know. But I think as we start to learn more, we can make different decisions for our lifestyle. So let's talk a little bit more about the causes of these skin concerns, like these inflammatory conditions. So what are some of the causes that we're seeing?
Um, it's kind of like a knock-on pillar aspect of it. So I think the big, I always like to bring it up, I call it the elephant in the room, is for such a long time, one bacteria only was blamed for acne. The P. acne bacteria, it's their
Propione,
fault.
Propionibacterium.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that fault and nothing else. However, if that was the case, then they'd be able to go in with specific ingredients to treat everybody's skin.
And just kill that bacteria, and
We're
then
good.
that would solve the problem. We'd never have that problem anymore. Get rid of that one
But
bacteria, but that didn't work, did it?
not at all.
No.
Nobody's skin is the same. And what they've discovered now is if you look at the pillar of response, I want to call it, there is inflammation. It's
Mhm.
painful. Anybody who's had acne or had a breakout, we know how it feels.
Yeah.
It's very painful. There's inflammation involved. Your immune system is involved. That's what that means. There is your microbiome
Mhm.
is compromised.
Right.
Something's off.
So you don't have enough balance in your good bacteria or your good microbes, because it's more
Yeah.
than bacteria, right? That makes up your
Absolutely.
microbiome. So you don't have enough good microbes, and you've got too much bad microbes.
That's right, because then, yeah, the bad can overtake the good,
Mhm.
the competitive exclusion we've talked about before. But then there's also your actual barrier function as well. Your production of lipids, your production of the oil, the sebum. That's so important. Unfortunately, with acne products, we all have seen it out there. With acne products, let's take the oil off.
Triclosan, tea tree, oh, what is another one that is in an acne product? Well, I know triclosan is just
Benzoyl peroxide.
benzoyl peroxide,
Sizzle
exactly.
it all away.
Oh, that stuff. And we're doing that to youth as well. We're doing that to people with young skin. We are sizzling their skin, and we are setting them up for a lifetime of inflammation. And I
Yeah.
think it's really horrendous. And as people who work in this industry, I think that it's incumbent on us to make sure that we talk about these things. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to change how everyone does everything. But I think that if we take small steps and just learn how to in a very small way start to shift our understanding of what our microbiome does, which is what we're doing these afternoons, and talking about skin microbiome, because it's a really long conversation, and we've been doing things a certain way for a very long time. So how then does Esse approach the topic of acne just in general?
First things first, looking at those three pieces. First understanding that it's not just one thing. It's not just a bacteria causing this. It is all those pillars in that piece of inflammation, microbiome, and barrier. Something is off somewhere for a person, and it's a cascading effect and a knock-on effect. So that's important, that no one person is the same. I think that's very important. No one person is the same. No one lifestyle is the same. So we got to put that out there. One thing doesn't cure everything.
So we need to treat them as individuals.
Absolutely.
Which is why working with a professional is the key.
Absolutely.
Right?
For customization.
Yeah. And I did have a conversation with a friend last night who went to a pharmacy, who talked to the person who was like the #1 in Canada for such and such. And I was like, hey. And she was given a whole bunch of products that I just nodded and smiled and went, okay.
Yeah.
Next time, come see me. I'll hook you up. And it's really hard because people don't know what they don't know, which is why working with a professional is really, really key. And these videos are for professionals to help shift our understanding of the importance of our skin's microbiome. Okay, so we're going to customize. We're going to treat each person as an individual, as we should.
Absolutely.
And then what are we going to do? Then what is Esse going to bring to the table?
Yeah. We're going to customize their home care routine to see what they need. We're going to start out slow and build it up. So we'll probably start with pre and postbiotics. And very important, which is not unique to Esse. It is and it isn't. I'm sure more will come in the future. But Esse looks at all the science first with product formulation. And another thing we know, part of a mismatch in our world is not enough daylight. We now know that there is vitamin D deficiency. And there's also a link in that to skin inflammation and skin disorders. So they also use vitamin D in product formulation to help the ingredients actually work with sunlight to photosynthesize the vitamin D into you. And then also look at actual live probiotics that can be defined properly by live biotherapeutics. And not just one strand, which I find fascinating. Like Esse's sensitive range, they have one live probiotic in their serum. But when you get all the way to the clarifying range, they actually have 4 live probiotics in their clarifying oil. Because again, acne is not one bacteria.
No, it's not one
causing the
bacteria. So
issue.
it's not one microbe that we need to feed it. So it is a big conversation. And as we've talked about before, the first step is S College. The first step for every professional is to register for S College, and the link is in the description of this video. And it's self-directed. So you can, it's big, the subject is big and a little bit mind-blowing. So take one step at a time, ask questions, do your research, learn about the science. And it's really kind of remarkable that we have here a line, a brand that is science-based and yet organically certified for ingredients. So it's fair trade, it is PETA certified, and yet still focuses on the science.
And I want to add to that too, just a point to bring into that I think is very important for people that will question this. And people question this, please do reach out to us. It's new science. This is new. Okay, it's not everything is in textbook yet. It will come. The new publications come, it will come, but this is newer science. And I think that's important as well, that Esse is shaking up the industry and making the entire industry relook at the way you treat skin. So I think that's an important piece to add too.
And it's not without controversy.
Yeah.
And certainly some of the videos we've done, we do get some questions that say, wait, what? Yeah. And yeah, everyone has their perspective, and we'd love to discuss it more. And please feel free to reach out here in the video and ask your questions, and we're going to be here to answer them. Thanks for joining us today.
Bye.
Bye.